What's up, everybody? We are back in action here at Betting You, here at Odd Shopper, here in the college football world. Week 8 is rapidly approaching. We already broke down Penn State and Ohio State. We already broke down these big-time Alabama-Tennessee matchups. Find it all on this very channel. But you know what? You know what we didn't break down? Akron. You know what we didn't break down? Old Dominion, and that's why you're here. We're getting a little dangerous. Our second episode, we dive into the under-the-radar games. I don't know about you, but I actually think at times this is where the value is. I love some greasy football, and that's what we're going to give you today.
Yeah, man, I agree with you. People don't have their eyes on these games.
No.
Bettors are more focused on the marquee matchups. And people just don't know a lot of the information about these teams. There's a lot of noise and level of competition. Injuries are not easy to come by. That's something I try really hard to take advantage of in these streets. And generally speaking, I just love some action, some gross Sunbelt football, whatever we can get.
Yeah, and even looking at my week 7, my major problems were in the big games. The under the radar games were certainly, I think, better, and we're gonna get some real good ones for you today. Of course, I know we have the best audience in the Betting You community. Hit that like button. Please subscribe if you're not part of this team. If you're on podcast, give us a rate and review. You know the drill. Let's get into this though. We're not gonna waste any time. We're gonna bring up the board. No, we will not be talking about those games, but what we will be talking about. First up will be Boston College and Georgia Tech, two teams middling in the ACC. We've backed both of them, or at least I have it several times this year. 4.5-point spread. Get us started.
This is one where pace just really lines up towards the over here, in my opinion. You've got two fast teams with some questionable defenses. Boston College 27th in pace. Georgia Tech is 45th. And I think these games could be even faster, these teams, I should say. Boston College just played Army. They're a triple option team that doesn't play particularly fast. And teams like that are littered throughout their schedule. Meanwhile, Georgia Tech's kind of off the weird 2 games. They lose to Bowling Green. Then they beat Miami on the last second of the game. But these are 2 offenses, I think, that are decent. You have Georgia Tech 72nd. They're going to score at will, I think. Boston College defense ranks 126, and they've given up just some horrific production to worse teams. Like you allow Virginia and Army both over 20 points. This team hung with Florida State a little bit, which was a surprise, but they allowed Holy Cross to score 28. This defense is awful, and they don't really have a strength. 92nd against the run, 124th in coverage. So you've got a fast Georgia Tech playing a bad defense with a decent offense. The question for me is, can Boston College do their part? And I think they can. They're 83rd in total offensive efficiency, but Georgia Tech has a major weakness on defense, and it's against the run. 84th in run D, they're 22nd in coverage. You beat Georgia Tech by just running the ball over them. Boston College has an awesome offensive line, 33rd in pass blocking, 10th in run blocking. That's what's really important here. I think this pushes over, and I don't really have a problem with the current number. I personally took 57 at the beginning of the week myself.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the mobility, Boston College quarterback. That Army game was played in a double monsoon. I saw it with my own eyes. It was raining so hard that day here. So, yeah, I do think maybe some noisy data in recent weeks. I've got a gift from the God. So I have the over on Georgia Tech's win total. When they lost to Bowling Green, I was completely cooked. Now they beat Miami. Do you think Georgia Tech wins this game?
I do think they win this game. I'm actually toying around with betting that myself. That's
the side
I'm not saying I'm going to lock it in, but it's been bouncing all over the place. I don't know what I'm going to do. I think 4 is a nice number if you can get it.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's not on my card right now, but if I had to pick a side in this game, you mentioned the over, no problem with that. If an actual team, I would take Georgia Tech and I would lay the points. All right, one down. Can't even find. See, this is how it gets real dangerous. Now I got to find the second game here. All right, let's try it. Yeah, now we're getting. They tried to sneak Louisiana Monroe with the abbreviation. Not so fast, my friend. 17-point spread. Louisiana Monroe, I thought might be building a little bit, and then South Alabama triple destroyed them. Now they have to hit the roads. We know about Georgia Southern. You saw them maybe in person against Wisco, but they were throwing the ball all over the place. What do we expect here?
I wasn't in person, unfortunately, for that game. Would have been fun because I like watching Georgia Southern. I think this is too many points at 17 specifically.
Okay.
For Louisiana Monroe, a team we've bet previously and lost. I believe I took them against South Alabama where they got clobbered. But they have two other pretty good data points. App State, that was just a 1-point loss, and they actually had a 63% post-game win expectancy. Now, it's not exactly the best rendition of App State, but they just had a 1-point loss to Texas State last week, and there wasn't as much noise in that game as you think. Louisiana Monroe actually outgained Texas State yards per play, which is pretty important to me. That's a Texas State team I think is pretty good, which has a problem playing down to their competition, which should be noted here. But overall, I don't think Louisiana Monroe is quite as bad as the 17 number indicates. They have a pretty good offensive line. They pass protect well. They're 23rd in pass blocking. And Georgia Southern's defense certainly doesn't scare you. They're better up front against the run, but they're pathetic rushing the passer, 123rd, 104th in coverage. They give up a lot of points. They also score a ton of points. They're 19th in total offensive efficiency. So this comes down to, I think Georgia Southern scores, and I think they score quite a bit. Can Louisiana Monroe do enough to hang in there? And I think with their pretty strong offensive line, they should be able to throw the ball somewhat in this spot. Dangerous, of course, because Jaya Wright has not been great this year. He's double the amount of turnover-worthy plays compared to big-time throws. That leads to some wild blowout wins, but then some really close games against good teams too. We're hoping we just get the better version of Louisiana Monroe, the version that played App State and Texas State.
17 points. You can find it at -110. It is out there. Again, Odd Chopper will show you the way there. So we can find it. Again, a team, you mentioned this already. You just mentioned it. It's not like they can't do it. We've seen their ceiling, and it's a competitive game in this type of spot. Their floor is another 40-point beatdown, and that's just kind of what we have to live with here.
Yeah, I'll say this. I'm absolutely no way betting under 17. And this would not be, it's not going to be in the top 3, whatever segment we do at the end, the best bet segment.
Yeah, fair enough. The Louisiana Monroe, still waiting on that squad. Maybe college basketball. Maybe they'll be a little better in those streets. We're going to find that out soon enough. Texas San Antonio, they're a team that, in recent years, they've made legitimate top-end strides. One of the best, small schools, for lack of a better term. Them and FIU tangle here. It's a 3-point spread, a 60-point total. What is the status of these teams? What are we monitoring, and where is the side that we want to attack?
This is another one where I like an over.
Okay.
I took 58. UTSA is 18th in pace. FAU is 34th. And I think we're getting better versions of these two offenses recently. They just have had more time with their current signal callers. Frank Harris, his absence was due to injury, but now he's been back. They just rattled off 41 points against UAB. Good data point, not exactly unexpected, but he's starting to play better. 65% completion, nearly 7 yards per attempt. He takes care of the ball. He has double the amount of big-time throws as turnover-worthy plays. That's solid. FAU's defense is far weaker in coverage. They're 9th against the run, 70th in coverage, so having a healthy Frank Harris is really important to this over. And then FAU, they lost Casey Thompson earlier this year. They moved to Daniel Richardson, the Central Michigan transfer. I like that they're not asking him to do a ton. He has a 65% completion, 6.1 yards per attempt, almost no downfield throws, which is good. You just don't need him committing turnovers. He doesn't run a lot either, but he's playing behind a pretty good offensive line that's 47th in pass blocking. They're not great at run blocking, but he's also coming off his best game. He just threw for 382 yards, over 10 yards per attempt against South Florida. I don't think UTSA's defense is going to scare anybody. Some of these metrics are horrifyingly bad. Another team that's pretty good against the run, but they're 131st in coverage. You should see Frank Harris and Daniel Richardson have success through the air in this matchup. And with pace already lining up, I think it is another greasy over we can get to. Won't get into their box scores, but you can just look and see both these teams, no problem scoring in recent weeks.
It seems like a pretty competitive game. You got FAU as a 3-point dog, taking a little pressure. It's bounced between 2.5 and 3, I feel like, most of the week.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of interest betting the spread here. It's just the total for me.
All right, over pass. Easy enough. Now we're getting, okay, this could be, I don't remember everything we've talked about. I'm going to declare Old Dominion a first-time betting you appearance. You think that's true? I don't think we've ever talked about Old Dominion.
I think you're right.
Monarchs, welcome to the club. 6.5-point home dogs for them, a 53.5-point total. You mentioned App State just a little while ago. They've been in some very competitive games. among some of the teams that we already mentioned. Old Dominion, I think I saw them earlier in the year against, I want to say Virginia Tech, but regardless, what are we doing in this matchup here? Is there a side? 6.5. What's the number that we need to attack?
I bet Old Dominion plus 6.5.
Okay.
But I'm nervous, and I was considering buying out and betting the over instead, which is a number I'll probably play. To get into it, I think we have two really volatile teams. App State's the better team on offense, where they rank 44th, but they have a major weakness, and it's their offensive line, which, as you know, you take sacks, those can be very volatile. You can blow out wins, you can blow out losses. They're allowing a 30% pressure rate. They're 1/10 in pass blocking. That's horrifying. Luckily, Old Dominion doesn't rush the passer. They're 130th in that metric. And that's important because they're 46th in total defense. They defend the run well and the pass. They just don't rush the passer whatsoever. But that's volatile to me. And then App State's also 113th in run defense, so opposing teams can run on them. The problem with backing Old Dominion, their offense is just so bad. They have an awesome defense. They're good at defending the pass and the run. Again, they don't rush the passer, but they don't need to. Man, they're playing quarterback roulette with Jake Shields and Grant Wilson. Neither have been particularly good. I happen to think Grant Wilson is a little bit better. 11 big time throws, 5 turnover-worthy plays. It's almost the exact opposite ratio on the other side for Shields. But this offensive line is also terrible, 43% pressure rate for them. I mean, it's been pretty gross, but at the same time, like, Old Dominion's been way better than I thought. I originally anticipated them being one of the worst teams in the country. They played respectably against Virginia Tech. They beat Louisiana Lafayette, who I think is a good team, lose to Wake Forest by 3, beat Texas A&M Commerce by 1, lose to Marshall, single digits, beat Southern Miss. Like, this is a pretty good body of work for Old Dominion. I don't know. I think it's pretty difficult to say. I like the current spread of 6.5, but I wouldn't be surprised if Old Dominion wins this by 6.5 or loses by 21. The reason I said the over is kind of interesting is Old Dominion's 9th in pace. App State is 43rd, two fast teams. And I think there's ways to exploit both these defenses. App should be able to throw the ball over Old Dominion to some degree. And then I think this App State defense is horrifyingly bad against the run. So I'm going to keep my Old Dominion position for now and likely play an over.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like this Old Dominion team. They got some pieces. You mentioned that defense. They do play fast. So I get where you're going with the over. There's no indication that this is going to tick to 7. I haven't seen any pressure in the market. It's 6.5 everywhere. Obviously, if it gets to 7 and you don't have a ticket, that's probably the time to buy. This is pretty greasy, though, and I will mention probably the type of bet. It's a perfect time to mention, if you have some bonus bets, bonus funds available, maybe use it on a game like this. And how do you get bonus funds? Well, listen up. I'll give you $150 right now if you're in New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, Iowa, or Colorado. If you're in Kentucky, you get $365 courtesy of Bet365. Those 6 states that I just mentioned, they are eligible for the Bet 5, get 150 in bonus bets. You bet that $5, whether you win or lose, it's coming into your account. Bet365 is a book that's been around forever. A great opportunity to do that. The link is below. So what do? You take 2 minutes. You click the link. You sign up. You bet 5, and then you're getting that 150 in bonus bets. We had so many comments on some of the NFL shows the other day. We were talking about this. Hey, I took that 150 and I hit a parlay. I'm up to 800. Hey, I did this and I bet all these games that I wouldn't have normally bet and I ran hot. Now I built up a little bankroll. It can happen. And if it doesn't go that way, you're right where you started. So it's a great opportunity for New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, Iowa, Kentucky, and Colorado. You do have to be 21 plus, 18 in Kentucky. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Now, we move on. We march on to Louisiana and Georgia State. Georgia State is an awesome team. I'm really becoming a fan of them. We've been kind of hitting them in recent weeks. Pretty solid squad. This is a tough game for them, though. It's up to 3 points, 63-point total. It's pretty lofty. What do you have in this spot?
Yeah, I did bet Louisiana minus 2.5 in anticipation of this moving. Georgia State, for all their offensive success, has been pretty bad on defense, especially in coverage. They're one of these lopsided defenses where they've been awesome against the run, 4th in the country in that metric, but 112th in coverage. Teams that throw the ball over top of you can beat this Georgia State team. And they've shown weaknesses against teams like that. Like, they should have lost to Coastal Carolina who was almost a full yard per play ahead of them. But turnovers got Grayson McCall in that game, so Georgia State ends up with a 30-17 win. You just saw Gunnar Watson throw the ball over them. I mean, even Cam Fancher, who's not really known as a passer, threw for 300 yards and was at 8.9 yards per attempt. I mean, Trexler Ivy, 9.2 yards per attempt. Kasem Hill for Rhode Island threw for 408. I mean, this pass defense is really bad. And you look at the Louisiana side, Zion Chris has been awesome. For a backup quarterback, never thought, I tried to fade Louisiana a couple times after they lost Wooldridge, but this guy has a 69% completion, 8.8 yards per attempt, 7 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, and he's averaging 8.2 yards per carry. And that's not on like a tiny sample anymore. He's been starting for multiple games. He's playing behind an excellent offensive line. They rank 19th in pass blocking, 20th in run blocking. They're only allowing pressure on 14.5% of his dropbacks. And then this Louisiana defense has been pretty good. 44th in total efficiency per my metrics, 29th in coverage, 53rd in run D. I really respect this Georgia State offense. So I do think they have some degree of success, but I think you've got slight edges on both sides of the ball to Louisiana. And then I'm a little worried about the Georgia State injuries. Their tight end, Chris Bird, missed their last game. Jadias Credle, their number 2 receiver, was out. You didn't have Bryquise Brown, one of their corners. Shane McCullum, he's not going to play in the first half Shamar McCullum, their outside linebacker, pass rusher, after he got ejected for targeting. So you got a couple injuries on Georgia State too, the targeting as well, that I'm worried about. I wouldn't go beyond 3, but Louisiana's the side I want to play.
Trexler Ivy. That is a name.
That's their Charlotte QB. I don't even know if he's their full-time starter, but he
never heard that name in my
9.2 yards per attempt, dude.
Okay. Shout out Trexler. I'm sure he's watching. We appreciate him, part of the team. But yeah, I didn't know about that. You can find -105 here. I'm fine with it at 3. Any lean on the total?
I haven't actually looked at the pacing in this game, but I think both defenses can be had.
Yeah,
it's kind of like
lofty, 63. But yes,
yeah.
I do agree. It's an exploitable matchup for both offenses.
Louisiana 83rd in pace, Georgia State 53. You're hovering right around league average when you look at these two teams combined. I don't know, it seems pretty efficient.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's not a spot that I have bet. Okay, this was a spot I got right last week, which was lovely because they needed it, and that was Colorado State from the clouds. Just shows how bad Boise State is at this point. No offense. And the game, maybe the easiest game, and you had mentioned it a lot, was just shorting Nevada with UNLV. They got the cannon. They're feeling good. They got their trophy. Now these two teams link up. 8-point spread, 64-point total. What are we doing in this Mountain West matchup?
Yeah, man, I think we got kind of lucky too. They allowed 9.3 yards per pass attempt to Brendan Lewis. Brendan Lewis he threw for 287 yards and he rushed for 115. Like, what is this guy, Lamar Jackson out there? I can tell you he's not, because he's played a lot of college football. But man, UNLV's defense, very giving. 85th in total defense, 86th against the run, 109th in coverage. I don't think they've played a good team since they played Michigan. They beat Vandy, who I was optimistic incorrectly at the beginning of the year. Vandy is really bad. They're worse than I thought, way worse than I thought. Then they beat UTEP, Hawaii, and Nevada. And they allowed a lot of points to each of those. All those teams scored at least 20 points. This UNLV defense has a lot of problems. And then on offense, there's some problems as well. Their O-line is 89th in pass blocking. Luckily, they've got really good production out of Jaden Maeva. I believe he's a freshman or a redshirt freshman, but really good runner. He has good passing efficiency metrics too. But I think this is another spot where you can just buy low on Colorado State. Their offense has been really volatile. Braden Fowler-Nicolosi, he has good efficiency metrics, but then a lot of turnovers. Leads to some wild box scores. But their offensive line, they've been okay, 19.9% pressure rate. It's actually defense where they've been pretty good and overachieved. 32nd in total defense and 24th against the run. They're 59th against the pass, so a little bit weaker in the secondary. But I like this Colorado State team. I think they're maybe the healthier team too. Aiden Hector and TJ Crandall, the only two injuries I'm really worried about in the secondary. But UNLV has some injuries too. Jere Williams, their strong safety, he missed their last game. BJ Harris, their corners, only played in 2 games this year. There's a couple of injuries on both sides. I think the hook is important, 7.5, but I don't power rate these teams too differently. I think it should be much closer to a pick 'em.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised at the spread. I can find you 8 at -110.
Oh my gosh.
I know,
Take
I know. What I'm really surprised. I'll be honest. It's not that I don't think UNLV can win the game. It's not that I think UNLV might not be the slightly better team. 8 points though, that's pretty generous for a Colorado State team that's shown some flashes.
Absolutely. And people will talk about key numbers in college football. Absolutely agree. But you want every single point possible.
Yeah.
A 7 and an 8 is very different in college football because there's some really bad kicker play. How many games have we seen decided by missed extra points?
Yes, I can rattle off. Like I said, Kansas last week scored. Let me think. Yeah, Kansas last week scored 5 touchdowns, and they had 32 points.
You
Think
want every single point you can get in college football. Kickers are really bad.
5 touchdowns with 32 points. That's impossible. That is just not possible. Yes, you want every point, and no doubt about it. And you're not paying extra juice for it. Colorado State is they're not on a level of a wagon just yet, but they're a pretty solid team for us. They've been good all year, and I'm gonna kind of
I'll say their cover last week was lucky, but they still got it.
Yes, but I can live with that. I need a little luck. Rutgers and Indiana. There's talk about, here we go. Another team that could have benefited from just extra points would have been Rutgers last week against Michigan State, but they didn't. So here we are. 5-point spread against Indiana, 40.5-point total. Talk to me about this ugly Big Ten matchup.
Quite ugly, buddy. You know, it's not quite as ugly as our Minnesota, Iowa, Wisconsin, Illinois matchups from the West. So we'll take it.
Dear God.
I know, tough week in the Big Ten. Anyway, I think some people will argue that Rutgers got a little lucky coming back and winning that game. I would disagree. They were over a full yard per play ahead of Michigan State. That team is horrible. But this offense moves the ball well enough. Gavin Wimsatt, is what he is at this point. He's a mobile game manager. Efficiency metrics aren't good, but they also don't ask him to do a lot. So when he turns the ball over, it can be catastrophic. Luckily, he only has 3 turnover-worthy plays all year. Again, a lot of that is by design in this offense. But the defense is so good for Rutgers. They're 23rd in total defense. They held like Michigan in check relatively, 15th in coverage, 59th against the run. Now they're facing an inept Indiana team who already had to replace their offensive coordinator. They don't have a clear starting quarterback. They've been using both Taven Jackson, Brennan Sorsby, benching them whimsically. I mean, it's not a winnable situation for either quarterback. So it's like, we want some guy to take the reins. It's like, oh, well, you better go find Patrick Mahomes out there because your team is so bad, nobody's going to be able to perform. Dexter Williams, the second, is allegedly healthy now. He's coming off an ACL tear. They might use him. I would be shocked, but I mean, maybe he plays. They're 111th in pass blocking, so whoever takes the first snap under center is going to get killed by this Rutgers defense and this Rutgers pass rush. I don't care who it is. I think right now it doesn't matter injury-wise. There's not really a ton on either side. The only main guy I'll note is Tyler Needham for Rutgers, one of their offensive tackles, but he's been out for a while. So, man, this is very generous. I think it's going to be low scoring, but Rutgers offense is still 35th in total efficiency. I think a lot of that just because they have long, methodical drives and they don't turn the ball over. Indiana's 99th on defense. Then conversely, Rutgers 23rd on defense, Indiana 98th. I understand why it's not above 7. It's because both teams don't score well, but I think it very well should be in this matchup. I think Rutgers has success on both sides of the ball here against a terrible Indiana team.
Yeah, I get it too. The value of these points, I get it. You know, it's a 40.5-point total, but still, maybe I'm not sure I want to lay 205, but I do think Rutgers is going to win this game. I believe in that team. I know
they also get to a bowl with a win here, which if you've been following Rutgers for a while, that doesn't happen very often. So it's not a look ahead spot. This is an important game for them.
Yeah, and they're a team that they are kind of who they are. Yes, they can't go toe to toe with Michigan. They kept it respectable, but for these type of games, this is right there. Now they do have to hit the road, but I'm with you. I've been back in Rutgers a little bit. I thought we should have got there last week with them.
I agree.
Yeah, so sign me up for the Scarlet Knights. All right, we're going back out west. Utah State, which feels like it's played about 30 games this year. They're always on the schedule. 4-point spread. Them and San Jose State. So this is a perfect matchup. 4-point spread, 66.5-point total. Talk to me about this team. I've seen Utah State quite a bit. A couple different quarterbacks at various times. They look good. They look bad. They don't play defense. I can tell you that much. What do you see here?
I like Utah State in this matchup. There was like a 5.5 or a 6 really early in the week, and I missed it. So I have the 4 now. I was hoping it might come back up, but honestly, I think this might go towards 3. So it is one I did play already. They have the quarterback. I don't want to call it a problem because I think both guys are pretty good. McKay Hillstead got hurt, and he looked really good prior to his absence, but then Cooper Legas came back and played awesome as well, completing 67% of his passes, 9 yards per attempt, 13 scores, 6 interceptions. He's pretty good mobility. Hasn't shown it as much this year, but in previous seasons has been very good for Legas. Offensive line is a question. They're outside the top 100 in both pass blocking and run blocking. That is the biggest advantage San Jose State has here. They are 45th in pass rush, but this defense is pathetic against the run, so it's very hard for me to reconcile this. How are you so good pass rushing and so bad against the run? 131st overall there. So that's a matchup Utah State can immediately exploit. Coverage for San Jose State, 68th. That's pretty middling overall. Not really worried. I think Cooper Legas is going to play this game. Their coaching staff has come out and talked about Hillstead. He burns his red shirt if he plays one more game, which I don't know why it's not like he loses the red shirt. So I don't know why they're making all this about the red shirt. But anyway, to look at the other side, San Jose State's offense has been pretty good, 70th overall. They're a pass-heavy offense. They run the air raid. They haven't had their tight end, Sam Olsen, or one of their top receivers, Charles Ross, recently. And I think they're running into a tougher matchup against Utah State. While their defense is pretty bad, the only thing they do well is stopping the pass. They're 100th in run defense, 120th in pass rush, 43rd in coverage. Now, they've played Iowa, Air Force, but they've also played James Madison, Colorado State, and Fresno State. All those teams can throw the ball. So I kind of actually buy into these numbers a little bit and think it's a bad matchup for San Jose State, who doesn't have a run game whatsoever. So matchup-wise, I'm going to side with Utah State. I don't really care who plays quarterback. They've both been pretty good.
There's a 4.5 out there. It is minus 115, but that's a good number. There's also 3.5. So the books are not agreeing here. Make sure you shop that. We'll talk about Odd Shopper in a little bit. You did mention, so I do think this is, like most games, styles make fights. When this team played Air Force, I couldn't think of a worse matchup, honestly, for a Utah State team, and it showed in that game. I would rather have them go up against a team trying to throw it, a prolific passing attack than a team like Air Force. I think that's probably the worst type of matchup. So I get it. Any interest in sprinkling in like the 165 range?
Yeah, I think that's live for sure. I haven't been super impressed with San Jose. Have you?
No, I'm a big Cordero fan too. But
They
no.
lost to Boise.
Yeah, they're just not. I
They
watched
lost
them
to
play.
Toledo.
Oh, I watched them play Oregon State, and they looked somewhat competent. They were never in the game, but that was about it. I'm trying to think. Yeah, they're another team.
They played
I've seen
USC
them.
in week 0, and
Oh yeah,
USC's defense
USC.
allowed them to look good, but that's USC.
Yeah. That's what I saw. Very disturbing activities. No, I'm not impressed with them. All right. Oh, now speaking of Coastal, let's talk about Coastal. We had this from one of our loyal viewers requested this game, and we were happy to put it on the slate. And that's just one more reason for me to remind you. If there's ever stuff that you want on Betting You, at JazzRazDFS, at Matt_Gajeski on Twitter. That's what we're here for. Hit us in the comments. Let us know. We want to do the games that you're interested in. That's what this content is here for. We want to build this into the biggest college football show in the industry. There's no doubt about it. So let us know. We'll cover whatever you want, including Arkansas State. A couple of weeks ago, I incorrectly predicted that Arkansas State would really find something with they turn to a new quarterback, the freshman who can move. It didn't result in much of anything. Now they're a 10-point home dog here. Do you think they can have more success against Coastal Carolina?
I think they can. And man, when it rains, it pours for Arkansas State. They've been one of the weirdest teams to back. They beat Southern Miss, so I think we've gotten more data on Southern Miss. They're not the best team.
Awful.
Yeah, and they allowed 37 points to them. A lot of that came on the ground. And then they beat UMass. I'm sorry, Ben, but 52-28. It wasn't particularly close. The teams they lost to are all very good teams, though. I mean, Oklahoma, Memphis, and Troy. Troy's one of the best G5 teams in the country. I look at Jalen Raynor's stats, and he's still amazing, even in some of these blowouts. Like, even with the Troy game, 63.5% completion, almost 11 yards per attempt, 10 scores, 1 interception, 10 big-time throws, only 2 turnover-worthy plays. That's amazing for a young kid who's only a freshman. And then he's averaging 4 yards per attempt on the ground. And again, we've talked about this at length. I like the skill position players around him. Jaquez Cross is a Purdue transfer. Courtney Jackson is a Syracuse transfer. Corey Rucker, he was previously at South Carolina. The offensive line is okay. They're better in run blocking. They allow pressure about 26% of the time, but they're 29th in run blocking. The defense is horrific, so there's nothing good to say about the defense, but I think this offense can score with most teams. And again, they have this run blocking advantage. Coastal is 88th in defending the run, much better in coverage. But at the same time, we've seen better play from Grayson McCall. He had the crazy turnover game, which is not like him at all. As far as efficiency goes, 65% completion, 8.5 yards per attempt. Offensive line is allowing about the same pressure rate. I think there's a lot of points in this game. And as long as you get the normal Jalen Rayner that we've seen with these efficiency metrics, I think they can keep this respectable, which is why I wanted to play the +10. They're also off a bye. Coastal's kind of off a mini bye themselves. They played midweek last week. But yeah, I don't feel good about this. Anytime you're back in Arkansas State, we're firmly in the greasy territory without a doubt. What is your take?
Listen, I already backed them in some spots. I've had some shameful wagers on Arkansas State and against Arkansas State. I bet UMass against them. I bet them against Troy. I watched them lose 73-0 to Oklahoma, literally. And they're not as bad as some of those box scores indicate. I really like this quarterback. And when you have a kid like that in a tier of football like this, can change the entire team. One guy. It's not like, up top. So give me the points as well. Okay, Nevada.
Yeah, for the record, I didn't bet it yet. That's the side I was looking at. I also don't hate the over. Like, both these defenses aren't good.
No, I don't mind that 16.5. But yeah, give me the 10. 10s are out there too. All right. I just mentioned Southern Miss, and Southern Miss might rival Nevada because Southern Miss is awful, but I do think Nevada might actually be the worst team in the country. They, Idaho smacked them. Everybody crushes them. 13.5-point spread here. I'm no fan of San Diego State. So what is the angle in this game?
Yeah, this was a request. I don't know if I can bet either team, dude. All right. Nevada.
I might take the points if I had to. I'm not betting. San Diego State is awful.
I agree. I had to plug my nose breaking down this game. So we've talked about Nevada. Like, they're 130th in total defense. San Diego State is 131st. Coverage, Nevada's 129th. Luckily, San Diego State can't throw the ball. Nevada is still 115th in run defense, so that should be noted too. But then on the other side, San Diego State is 133rd in run defense. They have the worst run defense in the entire country efficiency-wise. Like, this team is horrifyingly bad too. The main difference is Nevada's 133rd in offense. San Diego State is 84th. They actually have a mobile signal caller. He doesn't really throw, but he's awesome running. He's averaging nearly 5 yards per attempt. The offensive line has been okay. Nevada's offensive line is terrible. But is being 84th in offensive efficiency with a questionable signal caller who can't throw versus Nevada 133rd, is this worth nearly 14 points to the spread? I know you're playing at home. But Nevada, they were just UNLV. The box score looks pretty bad, but 7.2 yards per play for UNLV. It was 7 for Nevada. They've been respectable in some games. That's about the best way I can put it. Only lost to Kansas by 7. You lose by 11 to Texas State. Those are pretty good teams. I'm with you. I would take the points if you force me to, but I'm not going to lie. I don't think I can get behind this unless it goes beyond 14.
So bad. And it's valid. Listen, it's a 47.5-point total and you're getting 13.5. I don't know though. I'm
with you. That's where I would lean.
Yeah. It's Nevada or pass. There's no way I'm laying 13.5. But like I said, Nevada got straight dusted by an FCS school. A pretty good one, but destroyed. I'm not sure we want to be messing around with the Vandals. This is a rough one, but Nevada or pass, and it will be the only time that I could even remotely consider betting Nevada. Maybe it's actually, let me mention real quick. I'm in New York and I can't bet player props, but if you can, this could be one of those type of disgusting games where you look to a prop, maybe an over on San Diego State's QB in the betting streets. Odd Chopper can help you do that. You go quickly here. Of course, I bring up the odds page every time we do the show, but this is where the money is made. You see this premium tools. You can sort, you can filter, you can get anything that you want. You can say, okay, just show me I'm on $2. I just want to see these. Boom, updates in real time. All right, well, I want to know how much to bet here. Well, let me plug in my bankroll. Boom, it'll update in real time. Everything that you want is here. Test this out. Be part of this. If you're looking to take it to the next level, whether it's college football, NBA, which I think is the best sport for a market-based approach like this, sign up. Link is below. Odd Shopper Premium. Be part of it. Test it out for a week. See what you think. See if your bankroll grows. See if you fight. See this is a new angle to attack the books. I really believe in it. It's a big part of my process. So I wanted to get that shout out in here. You can always use something to do the work for you, save you time, and make you money. Now, we got a couple games left, and we'll do a recap. Where are we going here? We're going to Hawaii and New Mexico. Another barn burner. New Mexico, again, they're waiting for college basketball season in the pit. Here it's a 1-point spread, 60-point total. Go ahead. Make your case, my friend.
Yeah, this is another really hard one to handicap. The defenses are really bad for both of these teams. New Mexico 132nd, Hawaii is 110th. And I don't think either team is particularly good at stopping the opposing team's strengths. New Mexico is 128th in pass defense. Hawaii's definitely going to try to throw the ball over you. Whether they have success remains to be seen. But if I was taking a side, I honestly think it would be Hawaii. Okay. This team, I mean, you've seen some of their games at least because they played on week 0 against Vandy where they're allowing like kick return touchdowns and stuff. They just lost to San Diego State. They had a punt blocked in the game. Like they've got a bunch of weird things that happen in all their games. A lot of that, I mean, coaching to some degree, you can't just continually have this stuff happen. But I think they've left points on the board and lost games they arguably should have won. So if you force me to pick this, it would be Hawaii, but it's another one where I think I'm going to just stay away.
New Mexico is they're in unbackable territory for me. Not
what did they do?
I can't with them. They're really bad. They've been bad for a while too. Didn't they have like a stretch where they were only running the ball?
Yeah, their quarterback now is the former UAB guy, Dylan Hopkins. He's had like a weird year. The efficiency metrics aren't good, but only one turnover worthy play. They don't commit a lot of turnovers. Like they're a safe team, which against Hawaii, if you play safe like Hawaii, giving up block punts and punt returns and stuff, that sometimes can be enough.
And any interest in maybe a greasy over?
I was thinking about maybe a greasy under, but man, I don't think I could do either. Both these defenses are so bad. The reason I wasn't super excited about the over is the pace New Mexico plays with. 113th in pace. They really try to slow teams down. Hawaii is the opposite. They're going to play fast, but
yeah, you need turnovers. I saw New Mexico. They're another team. They were on UMass's schedule. They beat Tennessee Tech. I honestly, genuinely didn't know Tennessee Tech played football. I don't know about this. Yeah, Hawaii. I saw them against Stanford. I saw them against Vandy. Okay, 1 point, 1 point even on the road. That would be the side I would take. Last game up, and then we'll do our best bets for sure. Again, appreciate everybody tuning in. We love talking these weird games, and Western Michigan is a team near and dear to my heart, but kind of the opposite, I guess, because I need their under in win total, and they cannot win this game. That would be a killer for me. They're not supposed to, though. They're a 17-point dog against Ohio. Is it safe to say that Ohio is the class of the MAC?
I kind of think the class of the MAC is in a different game in the MAC this week with Toledo and Miami, Ohio.
Miami, Ohio, yeah, they're a solid team. So in this spot, 53-point total, 17-point spread. What are you thinking?
I think Western Michigan's a good value against the spread. This team is hard to back at times. I do not think they have the most intelligent coaching staff. They have Jack Salopek start against Mississippi State. He plays terribly, gets benched. Hayden Wolf comes out, looks like Pat Mahomes. They score 28 points in cover against Mississippi State. The very next game, they come out and start Trayson Bourget. plays so badly they have to bench him and bring Hayden Wolf in at halftime. Shocker, Hayden Wolf plays pretty well. He has a 67% completion, only 6 yards per attempt. They run this like weird air raid offense. They try to pass the ball short as an extension of the run game. So all their quarterbacks have yards per attempt like this. I don't think it's a reflection of the talent. I think it's just them throwing short of the sticks constantly. But Hayden Wolf has good efficiency metrics considering that he's playing behind a solid offensive line, 57th in pass blocking, 15th in run blocking. So the second you get a signal caller who's not just completely inept like Bourget and Salopek, they have time to throw. If you can deliver it to your reads, they've been good, which is funny. You see Hayden Wolf, who is like 22 starts under his belt at this point, come in, and wow, the offense suddenly looks good. Ohio has a weakness on defense and coverage. They're outside the top 100. They've been beat multiple times because of this matchup, and they're not a team I think all that highly of to begin with. They lose to San Diego State. I don't care that Rourke got hurt in that game. San Diego State is a bottom 5 team in the country. You cannot lose that game. Then they beat FAU by 7, beat Iowa State by 3 in a game they should have lost. Crushed Bowling Green, that'll happen. But Kent State scored 17. They just lost to Northern Illinois, who's a middling MAC team. I don't actually think this Ohio team is as good as people think. Rourke is awesome. He has pretty good weapons like Wiglutz, but the defense is horrible, and they can't stop anyone through the air. Western Michigan runs an air raid. That's going to be a problem. Now, Western Michigan can't stop anyone themselves. They're 124th in defense, so expect Ohio to score points here. But when we're talking about 17 points worth of wiggle room, I'll take Western in this spot.
Can I convince you to dabble in over 53?
You can. I have a lot of interest in that, actually.
Yeah, I think that I've seen enough from both of these teams, particularly Western Michigan. They're going to score a little bit, and they're not going to stop Ohio, I think repeatedly. So over 53 is an angle that I'm willing to add to the card. All right. Again, we have gone through a bunch of games. Now it's time to drill down. Like I said, maybe you take advantage of Bet365. You get your $150 in bonus bets. Maybe you've got a little extra money in the pocket. Regardless, where are your best bets coming from in this greasy slate of games here on Betting You Overtime?
Yeah, I'm going to give you 4. 2 of them are quick totals. I like the over in Boston College, Georgia Tech, and UTSA, FAU. Most of that comes down to bad defenses, really, for all 4 teams. And then pacing really lines up in those games. So I think if you can find those at or below 60, those are important. But as far as sides go, my favorite one is Rutgers facing Indiana. As motivated as ever in the Big Ten, this team can reach bowl eligibility. Indiana's playing 2, maybe 3 quarterbacks if Williams returns here, and they're outside the top 100 in most major metrics. Rutgers is the exact opposite, inside the top 35 in most. And then I'm going to say Western Michigan is my second side, plus 17 against Ohio. We just broke it down. The only thing I'll say is if Bourget or Salopek start this game, I'm probably going to buy out of it. This is contingent on Hayden Wolf playing most of the game. What is on your card?
So shout out, man. This is a big show for Old Dominion or former Old Dominion. Shout out Hayden Wolf. I love these 4. I'm just going to add one more before we bounce out of here. I really think that Colorado State is not getting enough love here. It's 8 points at -110. I respect UNLV. Again, they were a team that last week, if you backed them, you were profitable. And Colorado State, yes, some fortunate breaks. 8's a lot in a game that I view as very competitive. So I'm going to add Colorado State to the card as probably my favorite, maybe under the radar type bet of the week.
I love that. They were right there for me. That if I added a 5th, it probably would have been them.
And that's how we do it here. Again, appreciate everyone tuning in, letting us talk even more college football. We're not stopping anytime soon. The season rolls on from big games to small games. Follow Matt at Twitter. Get all that injury news, all that late breaking news, these small slates. If you want any of those breakdowns, it's available here on OddsShopper. That's why we want you to subscribe. Again, like, review on the podcast, share it, tell your friends. Let's build it up. Let's make some money this week. For me, for Matt, for all these schools, good luck. Enjoy the games. Talk to you next week.